Hello everyone. This is Movie Recap Nation. Today we're going to break down the plot of the 2016 crime thriller, The Accountant. A married couple brings Chris to the Harbor Clinic, where the boy is diagnosed with a high-functioning form of autism. The parents believe the situation is made worse by the fact that Chris's father is in the military and they constantly have to move from place to place. The doctor offers to keep Chris in the clinic for a while, but his father refuses, convinced that it is impossible to be in a gentle environment all the time. And Chris, in his opinion, must gather all the will in a fist and overcome the difficulties of his condition. At the same time, the boy repeatedly repeats a nursery rhyme. While assembling a puzzle without finding one piece, Chris begins to get very nervous. However, the host's daughter gives the guest the missing element, and he calms down. Chris currently works as an accountant, auditor, and rents an office in a small shopping center in Illinois. The specialist counsels an elderly married couple, advising them on how they can better manage their finances to minimize taxes and build up savings. Grateful old people in farewell offer the accountant to practice shooting firearms on their farm, raiding the director of the Financial Crimes Enforcement Agency calls Medina, an analyst for the Treasury Department, and threatens to destroy her career because the girl hid from her superiors several facts of her arrests. King forces Medina to work for him and shows the visitor fuzzy photos of a man known as an accountant who often works as an auditor for large criminal clans, helping to find those who steal money from them. Plus, he's involved in the murder of several gangsters. King orders Medina to identify the account of the year for the month, otherwise promising to carry out his threat. Back at home, Chris has dinner. Afterward, he listens to loud music and stares at the running lights, trying to remain calm, while squeezing very hard on his leg with a wooden stick. The man recalls how his mother left the family for good one Christmas day. Does not agree with the very harsh methods of the spouse to raise her sons. The next day, Chris practices shooting a sniper rifle on the property of the farmers, who are surprised at how accurately their guest shoots. Chris returns to the garage where his trailer is located. Inside, the man keeps several very expensive paintings of currency from around the world, as well as a whole arsenal of weapons. The host lies on his bed, reminiscing about the time he spent in prison behind bars, and Chris met Francis Silverberg, who taught him how to make contacts with people and put him in touch with criminal bosses who needed a top-notch accountant, auditor to find those who were trying to steal their dirty money. At that moment, Chris receives a call from a woman with a robotic voice who advises the man to find a normal client, as by contacting the gangsters, he started to attract too much unnecessary attention. A few days later, Chris shows up at the office of Life Robotics, where he is greeted by the owner's wife Rita and CFO Ed Chilton. The employers explain that a discrepancy has been found in their accounting, and Chris replies that he's ready to start reviewing the organization's records. From the next day, Medina has only an unclear photo of the bookkeeper, which she sends to her FBI colleagues for verification. And dangerous mercenary Briggs gets into the businessman's car and threatens him with a gun, saying that the people upstairs don't like the fact that the man had a hand in their money. The businessman acts very defiant at first, but Briggs beats him up and makes him promise that he will not only pay back every penny of the money, but also pay interest. Chris walks into the boardroom, Robotics, Life, and awkwardly will the accountant Dana, who has found a discrepancy in the company's finances. The girl offers to perform the audit together. However, Chris claims to be working alone, forcing Dana to leave. A few days later, the FBI call Medina back and say that they managed to get a piece of audio recording of the moment when the bookkeeper kills 9 members of the Gambino crime clan, after which the agents send in a file to Medina. On his lunch break, Chris is approached and tries to start a conversation. However, the man has trouble making normal small talk. Then Donna tells him that she became an accountant by her father's will, although she always dreamed of practicing art and painting. After lunch, Chris returns to the boardroom and until late in the evening counts how much money the company has lost in recent years. The accountant gets so engrossed that she keeps writing on the walls and glass. In the morning, Chris excitedly informs Dana that someone has knocked several $1 billion out of Robe Life Technologies accounts over the past 10 years. But he can't yet figure out exactly who. Bigfoot Chris appears, and he repeats the same thing, and adds that he will definitely solve this puzzle. During the night, Briggs and several thugs break into the home of the CFO of Life Robotics. The mercenary tells Ed to get insulin out of the refrigerator and inject himself with a large dose so everyone will think the man died of a drug overdose. The owner has to obey, because if he refuses, the bandits threaten to brutalize his entire family. When Chris returns to the office in the morning, Lamar is already waiting for him. The owner of the company, who tells him about the suicide of Ed, who was also his good friend. The owner is sure he committed suicide as he was the one who stole money from Lamar's company accounts, tells him to stop investigating, which makes the accountant very upset. A distraught Chris returns home, where he turns the music up to full volume and hits himself hard on the leg with a wooden stick. Once again, remembering how his mother abandoned the family, the man breaks the stick against his leg in a rage, after which he drinks some medicine and soon calms down. As Chris drives out of the house the next morning, he is followed unnoticed by some sort of car. Chris returns to his client's farm to practice shooting with a sniper rifle. The man recalls how his father made him and his brother break to exhaustion practicing martial arts so that no one could hurt his sons. At this time, two thugs break into the farmer's house and demand that the hostess call a guest inside. The woman, along with one of the thugs, goes to the door. When a shot rings out and the head abruptly drops dead, the second bandit grabs the couple, gets into the car with them, and presses the gas. Chris then shoots the car's engine, forcing it to stop, after which he drags the thug out into the street. The accountant forces the thug to confess that he was hired to kill Chris and Danya. Upon learning the truth, Chris kills the thugs. Afterward, he jumps into his car and rushes to Danya's house. The stranger enters the driveway following Dana. Just as Chris pulls up to her house, the girl opens her apartment. When she is raided by two thugs dressed as couriers, Dana manages to escape and hide in the bathroom. The bandits break down the door and are about to shoot the landlady, but luckily Chris shows up in time to kill both thugs and take Dana with him. The surviving thug calls Briggs and tells him that his underlings have just been killed by an accountant, much to the mercenary's surprise. Chris brings Dana to his garage and tells him to wait for him. However, the curious girl makes her way into the open trailer, where she is surprised to see a pile of money, several expensive paintings, and a whole arsenal of weapons. And the owner doesn't answer. Where did he get it all from? Medina manages to pick out Chris's voice on the recording of the Gambino clan murder. The scorekeeper is heard repeating Solomon Grande's nursery rhyme several times in succession. The girl seeks help from psychologists, who explain that the type of voice of the scorekeeper resembles the voice of a person who suffers from autism. Chris brings Dana to an expensive hotel to take refuge there for a while. In the room, the girl questions her companion about his cool fighting skills. Chris admits that he suffers from autism, and it is very difficult for him to find a common language with others. The man adds that his father, who served in the army from childhood, trained him so that his son could stand up for himself. Danya tells how in high school she learned to memorize playing cards, only to buy a very beautiful dress and wear it just once to the prom at school. Danya reaches for a companion, about to kiss him. However, Chris pulls away and suddenly starts talking robotics about life. The man realized that someone was withdrawing money from the company only to illegally bring it back after a while, thereby increasing profits and raising the company's valuation for the upcoming IPO. Chris goes home, about to tell her the truth. On the street, Chris spots a suspicious man, not knowing it's Briggs, who shoots him. Chris has to lay low for a while. And when he comes home, he sees that the woman is dead and realizes that she was ordered by her own brother Lamar, who is guilty of embezzling company funds. Along with an FBI acquaintance, Medina discovers that Chris takes aliases after famous mathematicians, including his current assumed name Christian Wolff. Using U.S. Internal Revenue Service records, the two find his office in Illinois and learn that the accountant has been cashing out large sums of money through several small organizations nearby. Medina tells King about this and adds that the biller donates most of the money he earns to this harbor clinic. When Chris returns to the hotel, Medina is sleeping peacefully on the couch. The man recalls how his father made him and his brother beat up some bullies who bullied them at school, not wanting to put them in danger. Chris leaves the King Medina Hotel and FBI agents search Chris's well-protected home, where they find high-powered weapons and dozens of surveillance cameras around the building. Lamar hires Briggs to install security cameras in his house, just in case the accountant pays him a visit. After the FBI agent leaves, King is alone with the media personality and asks her why she was arrested. The girl confesses that she tried to kill a drug dealer who was trying to sell souls to her younger sister. King suddenly starts talking about how Chris talked his father into coming to his mother's funeral. When the men were politely asked to leave, Chris had a nervous breakdown and attacked a security officer. The father tried to defend his son but was killed by a stray bullet. After the incident, Chris went to prison, where he met Francis Silverberg, an accountant of the Gambino clan, who taught the talented guy the work of an auditor, introduced him to the underworld, and became his mentor. Subsequently, Francis became an FBI informant, and King was appointed his handler. However, due to King's inaction, the informant soon brutally murdered the Gambino clan. King was keeping surveillance on the Gambinos when Chris showed up to avenge his mentor's murder. Chris put a gun to the back of King's head and could have easily killed him. But instead, the guy asked if he was a good father. To which King replied yes. The scorekeeper let King go, who only had time to record his voice on a tape recorder. After the incident, King wanted to quit, but at that moment he received a call from a robotic female voice and gave him a tip on criminals illegally laundering their large sums of money. This voice, who clearly works for an accountant, has since become King's informant. Through high-profile investigations on the voice's tip, King quickly rose from a mere employee to director of the entire agency. King explains that he will be retiring soon and wants medicine to continue working with the voice instead. At that moment, Chris's home phone rings and robotic. A female voice leaks information to Medina at Work Tech of Life Britain is at Lamar's house with several mercenaries. And when Chris shows up, the accountant quickly dispatches the thugs outside and gets close to the house. Briggs sends a few more underlings to the enemy, but the same unenviable fate awaits them. Briggs looks at the CCTV monitors and is surprised to recognize his own brother as the enemy. Briggs tells the host to take a seat at the monitors and goes to meet Chris. At first, Briggs is angry since his brother disappeared without a trace 10 years ago, right after he got out of prison. Briggs also blames Chris for his father's death and lashes out at him. Chris allows himself to be hit a few times, but then cools his brother's ardor. The brothers reconcile and are quite friendly. When the owner shows up, displeased that the mercenary has not yet killed the accountant, Chris shoots Amar in the head without speaking and then leaves, arranging to meet his brother a week later when another couple and their child visit New York Harbor Clinic. The couple's autistic son meets Justine, the owner's daughter. She is the same girl who helped Chris with Paul at the beginning of the movie. Due to psychological problems, Justine cannot speak. She simulates speech with a computer and is the robotic voice that has been helping Chris for years, and the accountant funds the clinic with the profits from his audit. Yes, she returns home and soon receives a package containing a very expensive Jackson Pollock painting from Chris's trailer. Meanwhile, Chris is moving to a new place. What do you think of the movie The Accountant? Share in the comments. Thanks for watching and see you all again.